It's now official, guys. Ang bilis. Wala pa nga sa Cayman, hurricane na. Wow. Hurricane na agad. Basahin natin. So, as of 5 p.m. po, October 5. Okay? Dangerous storm surge and hurricane conditions are expected within the portions of the northern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico and are possible in extreme western Cuba beginning Tuesday night, and a hurricane warning is in effect. Heavy rainfall will affect portions of Jamaica, Cayman Islands, western Cuba, and the northern Yucatan Peninsula during the next few days. This rainfall could lead to significant flash. But, yun nga, number 3, tropical storm conditions are expected in portions of the Cayman Islands beginning tonight or early Tuesday, and a tropical storm warning is in effect. Oh, okay. So tropical storm. Pero ang Delta po, ano na siya, hurricane na siya, considered na siya as hurricane. Kasi tumakbo na daw po doon yung eroplano na pinalipad ng US, yung Hurricane Hunter. Sabi doon, data from the NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft reveals that Delta has been upgraded from a tropical storm to a hurricane. It is the 9th hurricane of the 2020 Atlantic season. The hurricane is currently located 150 miles, 245 kilometers south-southwest of Negril, Jamaica, and 220 miles or 355 kilometers south-southeast of Grand Cayman. Malayo siya, no? So, that is as of 7 p.m. Cayman time. As of 7 p.m. Cayman time, the center of hurricane data was located near latitude 16.5 north, longitude 79.6 west, and was moving towards the west-northwest near 8 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure estimate from data provided by the aircraft is 980 millibar. A faster northwestward motion is expected Tuesday through Wednesday night, or the forecast track the center of Delta expected to pass the southwest of the Cayman Islands early Tuesday and approach the northern portion of the Yucatan Peninsula and the Yucatan Channel Tuesday afternoon or evening. Delta is forecast to move over the southern Gulf of Mexico Tuesday night or early Wednesday and be over the south-central Gulf of Mexico on Wednesday and Wednesday night. Data from the Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicate that the maximum sustained winds have increased near 75 miles per hour. A while ago, ang sabi dito, ano lang di ba? 50 miles an hour lang. Di ba? And the tropical storm force winds extend to 70 miles. Tropical storm warning continues to be in effect for the Cayman Islands and the Isles of Ute. Tropical storm watch is in effect for Cuba, province and La Habana. Hurricane watch is in effect for the Cuban province of Artemisa, Isles of Ute, and hurricane warning is in effect for Cuban province of Pinar del Rio, Tulum to Rio Lagartos, Mexico, and Cozumel, Mexico. Tropical storm conditions are expected in the Cayman Islands later tonight. Hurricane conditions are expected within the hurricane warning area in the Yucatan Peninsula Tuesday night, with tropical storm conditions beginning late Tuesday. Hurricane conditions are expected within the portion of the hurricane warning area in western Cuba. According to the notification put out by Hazard Management Cayman Islands, while it is not anticipated that the Cayman Islands will be affected by storm surge or hurricane force winds, it is looking increasingly likely that very large and potentially dangerous waves could begin impacting the west side of Grand Cayman, including 7 Mile Beach and the port of Georgetown as the hurricane moves off the west away from Grand Cayman. Through midweek, Delta expected to produce 3 to 5 inches of rain across the Cayman Islands. Gusty winds are also likely on Tuesday morning. Hurricane conditions are possible on the Islands of Youth beginning Tuesday. Through midweek, Delta expected to produce through 3 to 6 inches of rain and isolated maximum total of 8 inches across Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, western Cuba, and the northern Yucatan Peninsula. This rainfall could lead to significant flash floods and mudslides. Later this week into the weekend, Delta is expected to bring heavy rainfall across portions of the central Gulf Coast into the southeastern United States. Hurricane Delta could be the first Greek name hurricane to hit the United States. All right. All right. Yun. Basa niyo na ha. Disgusted na dalawa ka. Ay, nako. Traditional nagsalita na. Siya pala. Hmm. Wind Finder. Ayun, may nagsuggest. Si Idol, Warren Cebuan. Wind Finder. Tingnan natin to. Mukhang maganda to. Mo idol ko tong si Warren Cebuan na to eh. Hmm. Nasaan ang Cayman? Paano ko babaguhin to? Hmm. Ano ko siya ano? Hirap na maggamitin. Paano siya ayusin? Walang yan. Ano ba yun? Paano ko siya? Nasaan ang ano? Yun. Galing naman. Ano ko ngayon to ya, ano? Hmm. Ay, oo, ang galing ah. Teka, pakita natin. Oo nga. Very good, very good. Ito po, shinare po ng ating isang kakilala. Isang idol. Share natin to. Kita niyo po ito. Ito po yung ano. Guys, makinig kayo. Uy, mga guys and gays. Nakikita niyo po ba yan? Yung wind finder na yan? Shinare po ni idol ko, ni Warren Buwan. Tingnan niyo po. Ayun po ang storm. Ito yung Georgetown. Ito po yung Grand Cayman. Ito yung Little Cayman, Cayman Brac. Okay? Ayan po yung takbo ng wind. Ito po yung storm. Hurricane to. This is Hurricane Delta. Grabe, no? Ayan po ang Hurricane Delta. At ito po ang Georgetown. Ibig sabihin, nasa ano na tayo, oh. Grabe, no? Ayan po siya. Ito po yung storm. Ay, hindi pala storm. Hurricane Delta. Ayan po ito yung Georgetown. Napapansin niyo po ba? Galing, no? Galing ng senior ni Warren, no? So ito yung Hurricane Delta. At yan po yung takbo ng hangin. Yun yung pala yan, ano? So, kung mapapansin niyo po, ito po yung ano, ito yung Grand Cayman. Ito, hindi ko lang malagyan ng sign pero ito po yung Grand Cayman. Ito po yung Georgetown. And this is Hurricane Delta. At ang direction po niya ay papunta dito. Papunta dito. Pero kung titignan nyo, talagang magmo-move siya ng ano, di ba, ng west. Parang malayo siya, no? I don't know if you can see it, pero yun po ang nangyayari ngayon sa ano natin. Grabe, no? Bigla siyang naging hurricane. Ang ano ko, tropical storm ngayon, hurricane na siya. Yan ang hindi ko maintindihan, ano? Kung titignan mo siya, teka, bigla siyang naging hurricane, di ba? Tira, tignan natin yung, bakit bigla, kung ganun ang takbo ng wind, di ba? Bakit siya dumiretso? 2 p.m. to. PM Monday. So gaganon pa rin siya, didiretso pa rin siya. Kita niyo po yung takbo ng Hurricane Delta? Hurricane na po pala siya, hindi na siya tropical storm, ha? Di ba tropical storm ang sabi nila? Pero ngayon po ay hurricane na siya. Although sabi nila kanina sa news briefing, parang ibabrush lang niya ang Cayman. Eh, alam naman natin ang nature, di ba? Pag minsan ang nature, hindi natin alam ang mangyayari, guys, di ba? So, yan po ang sitwasyon natin ngayon. Yan po ang sitwasyon natin ngayon. So, ito po yung Grand Cayman. Ito po ang Grand Cayman. Ito po ang Tropical Storm Delta. Okay? Pero, titingnan nga naman natin, ano? Parang hindi talaga tayo tatamaan ng ano, di ba? Konti lang. Konti lang. Kaya mag-iingat po tayo. Mag-iingat po tayo. Ito po yung, nakita nyo kung saan yung ano, Grand Cayman? Banda rito siya. Ito. Nakikita nyo ba to? Ito po ang Grand Cayman. So, yung forecast nitong Georgetown, mga 7 p.m. cloud cover, ang rain 7 inches, parang wala, ano, nawala. Nawala ang tubig. O, naano lang tayo, nadaanan lang tayo. Nadaanan lang tayo, bali. So again, i-expand ko po ng konti para makita nyo. Ayun po ang Georgetown. Ha? Nakikita nyo po ba yung Georgetown? Ito yung Georgetown. Ito po yung Hurricane Delta. Ang direction po niya ay papunta ganun dito. Ito yung direction niya. So, mukhang okay daw tayo. Sabi ng graph na to. Diba? Grabe, no? Ay. Share ko yung iba. Ingat po tayo mga kababayan. At may hurricane po tayo sa tabi natin. Grabe, no? Ingat po tayo, ha? Ingat. Papakita pa akong isa sa inyo eh. Teka. Ah, iba na naman ang pangalan to. Sa mo ko sa dali ah. Ano nga ba yun? Nawala tuloy ako. Yung Mike Sweaters page. Grabe, no? Kumbaga din, bilisan tayo. Tingnan natin yung ibang model. Nasaan ba yan? Ito. Saan ba yung mga ano? Share ko nga to sa inyo para makita nyo. So ito yung Grand Cayman. So, galing, no? Lahat ng model, Lahat ng model, talagang ano eh, hindi dadaan eh. So thank God, di ba? Para tayong nakaprotect dito sa Grand Cayman. No, ito yung ano, makita natin ulit yung wind finder na ano. Maganda yung wind, maganda yung wind finder eh. Lipat natin ha. Dali lang. Lipat tayo sa wind finder. Ito yung Grand Cayman at ito po ang Hurricane Delta. Yan ang live. Live po yan ngayon. Ito po ang Kingston, Jamaica. No, ito yung ano, naman yung sinasabi ng CNN. Pakita ko sa inyo. Sa CNN ha. Hmm. Aangat siya ng category 2 tsaka 3. No? Grabe, no?
Well, we now have tropical storm Delta in the Caribbean, south of Jamaica, south of the Cayman Islands, but in very warm water, and we're likely to get a lot stronger than where we are now, just only 40 miles per hour. Now, the official track does take it into the Gulf of Mexico. The models are doing a very good job with the storm, even though typically this early in the progression, we don't get this kind of agreement. We're seeing something through here. That may be an influence of what is still tropical storm Gamma. It is still out there, and it may bend with the storm direction at least a little bit. 105 mile per hour storm, category 2.
Ah, Maghanap tayo ng ibang link ha. Sandali.
Well, we now have Tropical Storm Delta in the Caribbean, south of Jamaica, south of the Cayman Islands, but in very warm water, and will likely get a lot stronger than where we are now, which is only 40 miles per hour. The official track does take it.
YouTube. Looking at 2020 is just.
Well, good afternoon. We're tracking things in the tropics and we're also enjoying beautiful October weather. Sometimes this can happen in October, which I'll show you.
Share natin to. Ayun. Okay na pala. Paabang na pala.
In a little bit detail in just a second, but yeah, this is one of those times where it's beautiful outside and then we have two tropical storms to our south. This one, Gamma, obviously really not a good structure here. Here is the center. You can see it's spinning here just off of Mexico's coast of Yucatan, but look at all the moisture. It's displaced way off to the northeast with shear and dry air, and it's forecast to weaken soon. Our big focus is on Delta, and Delta's forecast path, you can see it's straight into the Gulf and then taking that turn to the north and northeast, somewhere along the northern Gulf Coast. There is still a big spread that it could end up anywhere from western Louisiana, maybe toward Florida as well. So there is still some uncertainty. We're still 4 to 5 days out with that landfall, potentially for early Friday. So Tropical Storm Delta moving west 6 miles per hour. The center shifted a little bit farther to the south. You can see most of the showers and storms and so forth and the high cloud tops are to the south. So that has happened earlier today. And now we're probably going to see perhaps that happening again if we do see that jump that could eventually affect the outcome of where it eventually ends up. Now, notice that if it does end up a little bit farther to the west, of course, when it enters the Gulf of Mexico, it may end up on a more kind of western Louisiana, Texas sort of outlook or landfall. And then if it's farther to the east, closer to the tip of Cuba, where there are hurricane warnings in effect for potentially hurricane force winds there in the next day or so, then it might end up a little farther to the east. And there are other factors too. Here is the period where it's going to be able to really strengthen. 86-degree water temperatures, still hot water conditions over the southern part of the Gulf, but near our coastline, our sea surface temperatures rapidly drop off into the 70s because of all this cool air. So this is the high pressure, the ridge that's going to direct it to the northwest, and then eventually we will see the high retreat and weaken a bit. And here's this trough of low pressure that you can see here. And these two things will guide it to the north and then to the northeast. And then Tropical Storm Gamma, just to show you really quickly, it was looking like it might have an effect. Maybe the circulation around Gamma pulling Delta a little farther to the west. That was looking like a possibility, but you can see it's weakening right now, and it's forecast to probably just be a remnant low somewhere over Yucatan by maybe Wednesday or so. So it has really not strengthened and is weakening rapidly. So we will see how these two interact. But I do want to show you our GFS model to give you an idea. This will almost certainly change as far as the timing goes and specific impacts and so forth. But 7 a.m. Wednesday, it could be here in the southern Gulf. As we move into Thursday and Friday, this could be Friday morning. There might be a hurricane just south of our coastline, perhaps. Again, the exact position is still to be determined. And then by early Saturday, it may have already moved to the north. I would plan at this point for some rain. Thursday and Friday, it's looking like roughly 2 to 5 inches. This could easily change, though, depending on exactly where it goes. And we'll also have to watch for coastal flooding and the wind potential Thursday into Friday as well. But for that, those are very dependent on where the center will track. So hard to nail down details on that. And more updates will be coming even on the rain totals and so forth. So we're still a bit early out on this storm. Past October storm tracks, by the way, the thicker lines indicate stronger storms. And notice that this is a pretty familiar path to move into the Gulf and then get that turn out to the northeast. And past October storms, you may remember, George, that really finished up right at the beginning of October. But you might remember one that was at the end of October, that looping one. It looped twice near us. And then also other Category 4 storms you might remember from past years. And yes, this is our 6th storm threat that we've been in the cone of uncertainty. It started with Cristobal. We were saying earlier, Cristobal, wasn't that last year? No, that was this year. That was our first threat. And then we went through all these other storms in which we were in the cone of uncertainty at some point. We've added now Delta to that list, and so we will see what happens. But now Thursday and Friday look like the main days.
It could be a good night for a stroll downtown to see that display. Beautiful weather, David Paul.
It will be a beautiful evening for a stroll. Gorgeous out there. Time lapse from Cade Memorial Hermann Hospital, TH Energy Cam. That's 99. That's I-10. It's been that kind of a day. Gorgeous. Sugarland's 85 right now. Conroe's 82. Liberty's 82. Low humidity is keeping these 80s feeling very comfortable. Allergy index continues not so good. Ragweed 317. Pollen granules per cubic meter of air. A ragweed right here in Houston today. That's probably why my throat itches, my nose itches, and your face hurts. Tuesday. Gorgeously cool in the morning, 60. High of 86. Beautiful afternoon again on Tuesday. But a lot going on in the tropics. We've got Tropical Storm Gamma. We've got Tropical Storm Delta. Gamma, that's not the center up here where all the thunderstorm activity is. That's what happens when you get these storms sheared off by the upper level winds. The circulation has been left behind, and it has exposed itself here just north of Cancun and Cozumel on the Yucatan Peninsula. The center is going to interact with the landmass of Mexico and weaken into nothing over the next couple of days. So Gamma is not a threat. Delta is one we'll be watching carefully. It is forecast to become a major Cat 3 hurricane even before it hits Cancun, Cozumel, then races into the center of the Gulf of Mexico. That's Wednesday as a Cat 3. And then all global models yank this thing to the north and then northeast as it makes landfall, perhaps near New Orleans. Southeast Louisiana is the center of the cone as a Cat 2, 100-mile-an-hour winds on Friday of this week. Now, we're not in the cone. We're close. We'll watch it. These storms don't always stay in that forecast cone. But again, looking at all the spaghetti plots, all the global and hurricane forecast models are very much in agreement that this is going to head to southeast Louisiana. Again, models are not perfect, but this is the most likely outcome. We'll be watching it carefully. On a track like that, a major hurricane in the Gulf, we would see increased surf, significant wave action on Galveston and the Bolivar Peninsula beaches. There may even be some coastal flooding for low-lying areas because of the onshore flow and the surf that we would get with that. But I think we would miss most of the weather with that because as this thing rotates around that area of high pressure on Thursday, that's what's going to yank it to the north before it has a chance to get pushed into southeast Texas. So this is going to be a close call, and I will urge you to make sure you keep watching us at least once a day just to make sure it takes that track. Louisiana doesn't need another hurricane, but it looks most likely that they will end up with that system moving in as it curves around the winds. And then later in the weekend into early next week, all eyes will come to this jet streak off the Pacific coast. That will cause a kink in the upper level flow downstream, and we get a significant trough. This is early next week. That's our next significant chance for rain, not until the beginning of next week. Until then, the extended has sunshine and gorgeous weather Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, warming to near 90 as we head into the coming weekend, and then a 20% rain chance not until next Monday.
The system as of 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon, it was defined as a potential tropical system. It was designated as such because it would allow us to issue warnings for the Cayman Islands, because the other option would have been to have identified it as a strong tropical wave, which you can't put a warning out for. Overnight, the system became a full-fledged tropical depression, and then at 7 a.m. this morning, we now have Tropical Storm Delta. Okay. There's also something else that's happened that's fairly significant, as it were, and that is the track at 4 p.m. yesterday, and even going into the night last night, all moved the system passing east of Grand Cayman and east and northeast of Grand Cayman. So the tropical storm force winds at that point was then extending to the sister island. However, rather than this tropical depression / tropical storm moving northwest, it moved more towards the west. Okay, and the corresponding forecast track has now shifted from east and north of Grand Cayman to west and southwest of Grand Cayman. This is better news, obviously, for the sister islands in particular, but it does bring it almost over the Georgetown area, as it were. There isn't any change in the intensity at this particular point, and the system is forecast to gradually strengthen as it moves across the area. It is not forecast to reach hurricane strength, however, until it's way up in the Gulf of Mexico. The next bit of information, which we're trying to digest a little bit on, is the up until the 4 a.m. position this morning, the track was generally east to west. The 7 a.m. position kind of gave us a bit of a surprise in the sense that the center was relocated to the southwest of that track. But it would not surprise me if the forecast track continues to drift west and possibly away from the Cayman Islands. Are we going to get weather out of it? Yes, we still got a lot of weather to come from it. The Hurricane Center is now saying 2 to 4 inches on rainfall, becoming cloudy to overcast from this afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock, with the worst weather coming in after 6 or 7 tonight. Cayman Brac is also expected to receive some of the weather, and their weather conditions should start from about 12:01. The storm will be closer to that. Okay. Tomorrow is expected to be a cloudy, rainy type day. The worst weather is on the backside of this storm, and so tomorrow will have a tendency to have a lot more heavy thunder showers and flooding than today per se. One of the things that I think is driving this system right now is that when you have a tropical depression and a tropical storm, it does not extend too far into the atmosphere. In other words, if I go up 10,000 feet or 18,000 feet, I may not see the system. Okay? Generally speaking, the steering currents and the steering motion that is going to determine which direction the system goes will be limited to that 12 or 18,000 feet. But once it becomes like a major tropical storm or a hurricane, then it has a tendency to be impacted by a deeper layer of the atmosphere. And that's probably why you will start to see weaker system have a tendency to move more east-west. It's stronger system has a tendency to move more northwest. So the longer this thing takes to strengthen, the better the chances for the Cayman Islands, in the sense that as long as it remains weak, it will continue to move west. If it continues to move west, then it will pass us to the south. So it is something that we are going to look at. We're going to monitor. For right now, the storm is forecast to move across near the Georgetown area and impact us with some tropical storm force winds. Impact us with some tropical storm force winds.
Anyone with a boat, we're strongly recommending that they actually take them to safe harbour or take them out of the water at this time. It's really, really important with the seas that will get heavier later on this afternoon and stronger winds. It's important that they are out of the water and secured. I think this afternoon we are going to be seeing things pick up. So this evening and tomorrow, of course, there will be a lot more rain on the roads. You know, we've had a lot of rain over the last few days anyway, so the roads are a bit saturated. So we're strongly recommending people to actually stay off the roads this evening and tomorrow, if at all possible. Again, given the actual forecast has moved slightly towards Grand Cayman now, it's really important that, again, we acknowledge the fact there will be debris on the roads. So you may not be able to see the debris, obviously, because of the flooding water. So it's really important, again, that people stay off the roads if at all possible. You're covering yourself, because again, flying debris is a real hazard when it comes to wind speeds and tropical storms and hurricanes. I think if a power line comes down and you're in your car, you stay in your car. You don't venture out, obviously, if they're still live, and we'll want to make sure that actually that's reported to CUC. We really appreciate the seas with tropical storm or hurricane are spectacular to look at, but of course they are a massive hazard. So we're asking people to stay well away from the seas and make sure they don't put themselves or any first responder that might have to save them at risk at all. We always say this time of year, or throughout the whole of the hurricane season, that people need to be ready for any eventuality. This isn't just a hurricane or a tropical storm, it's really for any hazard. So having those supplies at home, you don't need to rush out today to the supermarket or rush out to the gas station necessarily. It potentially could be a dry run. We still have 6 weeks left of the hurricane season. And again, those boundaries have somewhat shifted over the last few years as to, you know, storms being seen outside the season itself. So we just make sure people are prepared. They know where they're going to shelter. Obviously, we do have the Red Cross shelter ready to activate at any time today or this evening. And we will be looking at other shelters potentially bring on board in case flooding is an issue. But again, the Red Cross shelter will be the primary shelter. Please make sure if you do go to that Red Cross shelter, or indeed any shelter that's up during the next 24 hours, to make sure you have a mask and sanitation with you. So you're practicing, you know, those social distancing requirements. We will have a team in place. They have been briefed at the shelters themselves, and we will have extra PPE if you don't have it. But we are asking the public to try and bring those kind of supplies with them. It's really, really important, again, to, you know, keep very close to your radio, keep tuned in with hazard management, www.caymanprepared.ky, and also the Cayman Islands National Weather Service. It's critical that you are on top of this. All the members of the public understand any, you know, very quick increase of speeds and so forth. You know, some of these hurricanes or tropical storms do have a tendency to rapidly intensify at this time of year. So please, please take note of local verified sources, reliable sources, and don't be sharing anything on social media that isn't 100% accurate.
Hintay lang po kayo. Yan po yung press briefing kanina ng government.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's press briefing. I'm Donna Bush. I'm so glad that you could be with us on our channels as well as on Radio Cayman. We'd like to first welcome our panelists, starting with His Excellency the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin, Deputy Governor, the Honorable Franz Manderson, the Honorable Tara Rivers, Minister of Financial Services and Home Affairs and Director General of the Cayman Islands Weather Services, Mr. John Tibbetts. Also joining us in studio are members of Hazard Management, their team, the sign language interpreter, and various journalists from across the Cayman Islands. We're going to go first to the Director General of the Weather Services, Mr. John Tibbetts.
Good afternoon. This is the information on Tropical Storm Delta for 4 p.m. this afternoon. The storm is located at 16.2 north, 79.4 west, with maximum sustained winds of 70 miles per hour. The motion is towards the west at 8 miles per hour. The storm location right now puts it at 245 miles to the southeast of Grand Cayman. The prediction continues to have a forecast that will continue to move it towards the northwest. Despite this forecast, the storm for the last 24 hours has been slowly drifting towards the west-southwest. This is called the forecast track to continue to move west of the Cayman area. And in the latest information, the tropical storm force winds is expected to barely brush the west coast of Grand Cayman.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mr. Tibbetts. We're going to go now to His Excellency, the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, everyone. That is really good news from the Director General, and we decided to have this press conference to give everyone who's involved an opportunity to update the broader population and indeed to reassure Cayman Islands that we are ready to deal with any eventuality. The Atlantic hurricane season this year has already proved to have been, what I say, above normal. So many powerful storms have formed over the Atlantic since the season began, but only for the second time, the United States National Hurricane Center has used up all of the approved names for storms. And we're now using letters from the Greek alphabet to name any new storms, hence Tropical Storm Delta, which is the 25th named storm this season. As I said, thanks very much to Director General of the Cayman Islands National Weather Service, Mr. John Tibbetts, for that latest update on Tropical Storm Delta. That is indeed good news. But notwithstanding that, I urge everyone to follow the advice provided and to get regular updates by tuning into official news sources such as Radio Cayman, gov.ky, and the government's social media pages. Public safety is our top priority, while the government and the public service is pulling out all the stops to ensure that we safely navigate the storm. Each member of this community needs to take personal responsibility for their own safety. Conditions in the sea and on land during storms can change suddenly and become quite hazardous. Therefore, please stay away from the beach and out of the water and avoid areas that are flooded. I urge you to stay home if you can and stay safe until the storm passes. These types of storms can be unpredictable, despite everything we do to try to predict them. Tropical Storm Delta has already thrown us a few curveballs, as Director John has just indicated. Thankfully, that one is a good curveball. Whilst this is expected to be a tropical storm and not a hurricane when it passes us, it is nonetheless a strong tropical storm. It is therefore very important, as I have said, that we continue to pay close attention to its development until it has safely passed these islands. Radio Cayman, as it has always done, will be providing invaluable updates throughout the night and tomorrow. As part of his briefing today, the Deputy Governor will provide an update on the preparedness of the public service and will provide further information about shelters if that is necessary and if that would be a safer option for you. He will also, I'm sure, advise on the government's plans for closing its various offices tomorrow. Despite some closures, there are many civil servants who will be working throughout the night and day tomorrow to ensure that the public is kept safe. I encourage all private sector employers to be understanding at this time as we face yet another challenge this year. Wherever possible, have your staff work from home and minimize travel on the roads. Once the storm has passed, there may be debris such as fallen trees or down power lines. So I urge everyone to please stay off the roads until the all clear is given. 2020 has been a challenging year. I can't find a better word. Adverb, to say the least, and we're weathering two storms at the moment, Tropical Storm Delta, and we're still dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. But we are used to facing challenges. Caymanians and those who call this place home are resilient people and will come through once again. Despite these additional challenges, the Cayman Islands is prepared and ready, as usual, to weather Tropical Storm Delta. I ask everyone to stay safe until it has passed.
Thank you very much, Premier McLaughlin. We go to His Excellency.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I recognise that there is clearly concern and anxiety out there that we have a tropical storm approaching, but as the Premier has said, we've already had a fair share of issues and events this year. I think the main message is, despite the slightly better news just now, we shouldn't let our guard down. It's always better to over-respond in any crisis and then pare back rather than be caught out. So hope prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And the government has acted quickly and decisively. And there's always an element of uncertainty. So that was the sensible and prudent thing to do. And as the Premier has said, there could be strong winds, rains, they could cause damage, trees, flying debris, possibly to power lines. And I spoke to the police commissioner and the prison director this morning about security aspects. They have very well prepared contingency plans in place. But the police commissioner did ask me just to reiterate, please not to go out on the roads later today and tomorrow morning. It will be hazardous. And no, it's better not to go to the shore to have a look. And please only put things on social media if you know that they are accurate. Of course, we have the 2 police helicopters, which are a huge asset in this situation, and they'll be going up tomorrow as soon as it is safe to do so. And I just want to underline that I've been in touch with London this morning, who are watching developments very closely. I spoke to the UK Met Office, the Foreign Office, and the Ministry of Defence. We do, of course, have the Royal Navy ships in the region, Argus and Medway, unlikely to be needed in this situation, but a really helpful reminder that they're there for this or future situations if we need them. So main message from me, please stay safe, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman and Grand Cayman.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, Deputy Governor, the Honourable Francis Anderson.
Thank you, Ms. Donna, and good afternoon. The National Hazard Management Council has had 3 meetings since yesterday. I received a call from Mr. Tibbetts, the call that I never want to receive. We have a storm coming our way and we need to prepare. But I'm very pleased to say that the council immediately got called together and we began our preparations to keep us all safe. So since yesterday, we have taken a number of decisions to keep us safe. And just to give a bit of updates as to where we are at the moment. So the Port Authority has closed to the public at 12 p.m. today, and they'll open at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. The airport has closed at 3 p.m. for at least 24 hours. The Cayman Airways flight that was scheduled to arrive tomorrow has been delayed until rescheduled for October 7th. Shelter teams are on standby, and if a decision is made to activate shelters, we will start with the Red Cross. We've identified shelters in each district in case need them. We pray that we don't. Damage assessment teams are prepped and ready to activate to conduct preliminary damage assessments once the all clear is given. The NRA has been actively clearing wells and trimming trees in high risk areas. The NRA will also facilitate the clearing of fallen debris and trees after the all clear is given. The utility companies have activated their plans, and both the Water Authority and CUC have advised that they do not intend to cut their services, but that could change depending on the severity of the storm. The Public Works Department has carried out checks on all shelters, and we've actually shuttered a few shelters based on our request. As His Excellency says, both Her Majesty Prison Service and the police have activated their plans, and they are ready, and all prisoners at the prison are secure. The Cayman Islands Coast Guard has secured all its vessels. Schools are closed tomorrow, and also the government, all government offices are closed tomorrow. We hope to open on Wednesday. I have some other information about how we're dealing with our persons who are in isolation facilities, but I'll just pause here and I'll turn over to Mr. Rivers.
Thank you, Deputy Governor. Honorable Minister for Financial Services and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Donna, and good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that arguably our national emergency operations are in the best position possible to respond to this severe weather event following our sustained efforts of tackling COVID-19 over the past several months. The track record of our first responder and emergency operation teams truly has been world class. And we want to sincerely thank each and every one of them for their efforts and resilience shown thus far during this very unprecedented year indeed. In response to the Tropical Storm Delta and following the meeting of the National Hazard Management Council yesterday, as the Honorable Deputy Governor has mentioned, work has begun and is continuing underway to put in action the necessary national preparedness measures. Particular consideration has been given to maintain the integrity and security of the COVID-19 isolation conditions, including those at the government facilities and in private residences. Arrangements have been made to securely relocate individuals isolating at home who are at risk of flooding and to move them to appropriate government facilities. The monitoring of those in home isolation by the Department of Public Safety and Communication through the geofencing technology is robust, and it is capable of withstanding weather conditions far more intense than is expected to impact our shores in the coming hours and days. Warning flags have been raised in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman, and regular public announcements have also begun, and they will continue to be broadcast widely with weather updates and preparedness information. So the public is advised to continue to monitor the official news sources, including gov.ky, weather.gov.ky, and caymanprepared.ky for the latest accurate information. Emergency contingency plans have been activated across our first response agencies to ensure that business as usual is maintained while the necessary preparedness measures are in place. Surge resourcing capacity is being deployed at the Cayman Islands Fire Service in both Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac to respond to any expected increase in incidents due to severe weather. The fire service crews will also join colleagues in the Coast Guard in a joint effort for all inshore search and rescue operations. The National Emergency Operations Center will be activated from 9 p.m. this evening, and individuals with non-emergency inquiries about the response to the tropical storm can call 949-6555. Again, that is for non-emergency inquiries. 949-6555. Any emergency calls should still be directed to 911 for fire, police, or EMS dispatch. A second shift of call takers is being deployed for 911 in case of an increase in emergency calls. A situational assessment is already underway with the low-lying areas being mapped and monitored for flooding. Comprehensive damage assessment will commence tomorrow once weather conditions allow for our first responders to move around safely. Community emergency response teams have been deployed across the 3 islands to distribute vital preparedness information to residents and to conduct wellness checks on the most vulnerable people in our communities. All 15 shelters in Grand Cayman are ready for activation if required, and the shelter teams have been placed on standby. Similarly, the Ashton Riley Civic Center in Cayman Brac, and the Public Works Department building in Little Cayman are both on standby to be used as public shelters if needed. Anyone needing to shelter at a facility is asked to bring their own personal protective equipment, including face masks and sanitizers or hand sanitizers as a COVID-19 prevention measure. Finally, the National Emergency Response Team maintains in regular contact, or remains, I should say, in regular contact with SEDEMA, that being the Caribbean Disaster and Emergency Management Agency, of which Cayman is now an official member, to keep them informed of the situation on the ground here in the Cayman Islands, should their assistance be required to be coordinated. The Cayman Islands has been tested many times, as the Premier has said, but we have remained steadfast and resilient, ready to respond to what lies ahead, and we have done this countless times. And again, it's thanks in no small part to the men and women of our response agencies and their tireless and selfless efforts. As the Deputy Governor said, many civil servants will be at home tomorrow and not able to work, but our first responders will be there in times of need, and we want to say a special thank you to each and every one of them. So may God continue to bless and protect these Cayman Islands.
Thank you, Minister Rivers. Before we go to members of the media, we're going to go back to the Director General so he can walk through some slides for us with his team member.
Okay. I'd like to first of all acknowledge Ms. Carrie Forbes, our brilliant young forecaster for the National Weather Service, who's assisting me this afternoon. Tropical Storm Delta has, as I said, been drifting west and southwest, and the forecast track continues to move towards the west. With the latest information, the tropical storm force winds are expected to brush the west coast of Grand Cayman for a few hours tomorrow. While the forecast path has moved to the west, the part that might alarm people is that the system has strengthened, and now it is fairly close to becoming a hurricane. That being said, hurricane force winds from the system are expected to remain west of the area, and the tropical storm force winds at around 8 a.m. tomorrow morning is expected to brush the west coast. It should be pointed out that even though we get the band of tropical storm force winds most missing at the Cayman Islands, the problem is going to come in the form of rainfall and flooding. All right, the Hurricane Center has been estimating that we're going to get about 2 to 4 inches of rainfall per 24 hours in terms of rainfall. But some of our models are indicating higher numbers are about 3 to 5 inches. And if we're looking at a satellite picture, the bands of the tropical storm are wrapping around even Jamaica and approaching the sister islands as we speak. And if we were to look at where the radar, you would see we've already received quite a bit of showers, but there are some more heavier sustained areas of showers still to come. We're expecting that later on tonight, somewhere around 10, 11 o'clock for Grand Cayman, 7 or 8 for the sister islands. So that's pretty much where we're at right now. The good news side of this is that As this storm continues to track towards the west, the possibility that there's always going to be a possibility of a turn towards the northwest. And that's what the hurricane has been forecasting. However, with each individual briefing, we notice the system is continuing to move towards the west, and so that forecast path will continue to drift west further and further away from the Cayman Islands. So it looks like the Cayman Islands will be spared of a significant impact from the storm.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tibbetts. Okay, now we're going to begin with members of the media, starting with Shanda Gallega from Radio Cayman. Push it down, the laptop. Thanks.
Good afternoon to each and every one of you. I believe my first question would go either towards our Premier or His Excellency Governor. Now, this storm appears to have provided an opportunity to see how our systems are working. Are there any things we have learned so far? I know that maybe there have been many lessons learned. So can you tell us from times past and now in terms of how our systems are working, how we approach this particular tropical storm this time around?
The system is so well oiled, they only tell me when they have problems. I haven't heard of any problems, but I think the DJ may be a little closer to it.
If I may be a little clearer with it, in terms of how we were able to deploy so quickly, from the time that we made the decision, the warning, the dissemination. Let's talk about that, the canceling of schools, civil service actions, even the shelters being on standby. Let's talk about how quickly we were able to deploy this. Do you find that it's lessons learned maybe from past hurricanes or even from COVID-19? What can you tell us about that one?
Like the Premier, I get a lot of the good news as well, but I do get when things are not going well.
Thank you.
I had a meeting.
Thank you for watching. Natok na ako. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. Sana maging okay tayo ngayong gabi. I heard ito may nabasa na naman ako. I hope it's not gonna be that so dangerous, but ito yung latest ng yung latest. Hindi pumasok. Sorry. From Cayman Compass. This increased likelihood that the island will be impacted by tropical storm force wind. So let's see, it's gonna be fine. Sleep tayo ng maayos. Wala tayong magiging problema. Alright? So ingat po tayong lahat dito sa Grand Cayman. Ingat po kayong lahat. Maraming po salamat.